Alright, greetings everybody from the previous video, which may have gone up first, maybe not. From the angriest water psycho mage to the angriest water psycho child. From the depths of the northern crater, which I'm hoping this music kind of evokes. Welcome to talking about Kadaj. Alright, so Kadaj has just came out on JP, and that means that the Wotv calc data is not up yet, but we're going to be doing a quick take a peek at this guy. The friend unit is up, see what his stats look like, how they compare to other water-based units. You know the one I'm talking about. And yeah, so let's take a look at his limit burst first, which of course, very Advent Children theme. He's got the double-sided katana, and he's angry. What a surprise. So yeah, it seems to be a phase that water is going through lately. So yeah, jump over to our other screen. We'll be doing our testing, of course, in the following video. But let's take a look at what we got here. But yes, Kadaj's new weapon, for anybody before we get too far into this video, is in fact a katana, which does mean that yes, you will have synergy with the new version of Sephiroth, which comes out next week. For globalers wondering when you're going to see this character, because I see this question all the time, 1 month. 1 month later from JP, unless there are delays or something unexpected happens. So here he is. This is Kadaj stats in a water-based party, and of course, the real question is here, how does he match up to a specific other character? And that character is, of course, Spring Joom. Spring Joom is the be-all and end-all when it comes to water-based characters right now. And one of the, if not the strongest character in the game. Yes, we'll die on this hill. And as you can see, stat-wise, it's a little bit different. One thing I will say when looking at this image is that, of course, Trust Mastery Stones are a factor. If we decrease it, we can take a peek here, but also keep in mind that reincarnations also are a factor into my version of Joom. Even if she did have her TMR on, not a huge percentage of where her extra stats are coming from, but it is relevant to talking about how strong Kadaj is. Since Kadaj is a 90 cost character as opposed to a 100 cost and limited to boot, meaning that if you want to get him and upgrade him, yeah, do it before the end of the Advent Children event. Still, I think that Kadaj's stats are pretty even to Joom's right now. 121 versus 125 speed. Of course, HP here, slightly different, attack different, but for the most part, if you look across, I think that for going from a 100 cost to a 90 cost here is pretty well represented. He still has 39 defense, 28 spirit. He still has over 2,000 attack and 12k HP, something that you would normally see reserved for a tank. We haven't even hit Reincarnation City yet, or with Trust Stones, which would also improve it. He's fast. He doesn't have as good a movement, mainly because his jump is lower and his AoE resistance seems to be a little bit lower as well. But taking a look at his overall stats and resistances, I'd say that Kadaj represents pretty well here versus one of the other strongest water characters in the game. The only thing that he is generally weak to, naturally, is piercing base resistance, which Thunder, yes, Fang does exist and would be a good counter to this character, but really Lightning doesn't put out huge numbers of spear-based characters, and you'll also notice not exactly weak to Lightning right off the bat. He's already sporting at least 15% elemental resistance across multiple elements, and certain elements are boosted even higher, such as Thunder and Fire, meaning that certain elements are going to have a tough time getting through this character. He doesn't excel in a particular damage type, but neither is he really that weak. Basically, what I feel from looking at this character overall is his stats are very well into the higher tier, and probably even as I consider him as positively as Cloud is. Maybe a little bit more simply because we are saving 10 cost, which can be the difference between getting certain characters into cost limited events sometimes. But the character stands on more than just that. We need to take a look at abilities. Starting off with his Limit Burst, which while I've talked about before, I'll talk about it again. The 3-turn AP recovery is generally pretty nice here, but what really sells this is it's essentially Sephiroth's Limit Burst again on a different character. And what we are looking at is Guts and Re-Raise cancellation, as well as extremely large damage. Except for, being 100% accurate, this is a strong Limit Burst back then, and it's still a strong Limit Burst now, with how many characters come shipped with either surviving fatal damage or re-raise. So yeah, this Limit Burst will get you tons mileage, even nowadays. Taking a look at some other things we do, before we go a little bit further, I guess I should take a step back and talk really quickly about his weapon. The katana-based weapon that we are seeing here is kind of unexciting. While it has 180 attack and just slash attack resistance for most characters, Kadaj does get some extra benefits, mostly dealing with defense up, initial AP of 20%, which I'm definitely not scoffing at, and elemental chain resistance. So it's a mostly more defensive-based weapon, which is pretty interesting when you just slice it. Because you'd think, well, why isn't he more offensive? Well, he's kind of a strangely good defensive character, too. And that does make me whinge a little bit because, well, guess what? I've heard this story before of a powerful character with enough powerful offensive abilities can also do really good defensively. It's kind of scary that this is becoming a trend. But anyway, also, his Trust Mastery, which we haven't talked about yet, 313 HP, 14 defense, 6 spirit, 6 accuracy, 6 evasion, and critical evasion as well, kind of all over the place. Still defensive, but I guess okay for evasion. It is a 4-turn effect on this Limit Burst that acts not only on the user, but also any allies that are surrounding the user. And this 4-turn effect, basically if a attack hits your opponent, Human Killer will be reduced. And I do believe it is physical only Human Killer, but this is a trend with Kadaj, weakening his opponents. And I gotta say, kind of curious. I don't think that the numbers will be anything too insane, but could be quite valuable depending on your matchup. So I like this Trust Mastery, and it is on the trend of TMRs that are getting 4-turn abilities, making them better than 3 turns, just by standard extra turn. All right, taking a look at his new counter ability. Counter ability that we are looking at is the chance to evade all physical attacks. And given that mages are kind of dead right now because of Ashen Mont and Spring June, this is very valuable Trust Mastery. You can't shut this ability down. You may not be attacking this character as much as you often have. Reflex is still a threat, and it's one of the reasons why reaction cancellation is one of the things that people do value. So I'm going to say that this is a pretty good counter. Taking a look at support-based skills, interestingly, for the equipment of this character, since I don't have access to the full one, is basically accuracy up and defense penetration from battle stacks, which, sure, but it does make me wonder if this character only has 1 support skill as opposed to 2, or the other one just wasn't worth running in terms of the friend unit. Either way, curious to say the least. As for this, mostly offensive here, but this is one of the sources of his elemental resistance. That is permanently fixed, meaning that other elements will have a hard time killing this character simply by this support skill alone, but it does up his offensive capabilities. All right, taking a look at abilities now, his attack-based abilities and support skills that he has. Take a look. So first off, this one, very short range, but is a 3-hitter. Basically, you're not going to see too much value out of this in terms of PvP settings, but in terms of chaining-based stuff, this is great to have and works with a ton of stuff that Water has. Water is really good at chaining a bunch of stuff, and Kadaj will bring value to that. As for his other ability, Berserk status effect on a AoE based attack have to be relatively close to the target, but if you can, Berserk can swing the game in your favor. So definitely valuable to always see a status effect that is kind of uncommon and a little bit rare. Cool. All right, now to the main part of his kit, and starting off with his job base 25 ability. This is a 3-turn ability that selects up to 2 targets and has defense penetrate or defense shred on it. So you'll actually be able to shred through an enemy's defense by a certain percentage. Given how these are normally working now, it's either 30 or 60%, and I do believe that this one will be on the higher scale of 60%. So while you look at characters like Mont, who can get rid of through single target resistance, that might be the character that this guy wants to operate with, but they will strengthen each other since they are both getting through physical defenses. Or at least, things that stop from dealing extra damage. Also here, just large base damage, and has extra accuracy on it, meaning that you can hit those pesky evade characters with a little bit more certainty. All right, over here we have this ability which does grant him re-raise, which is always good to see. Also gives him a 4-turn AP down, as well as strengthens his defenses by upping his elemental resistance. So not only does he have it in a support skill, he also has it with a secondary skill that gives him extra elemental resistance against all different types, meaning that he's even harder to kill once he gets this attack off, and you have to get through his re-raise too. Quite a nasty but very strong ability. Next up, this one, very simple. Hit a target, kill it, get some AP back. Moving on. Sorry, that one was just super quick. This one's the one that we talked about previously. Basically, it is the human killer adapter, where essentially he gives himself human killer resistance and gives himself extra human killer. So basically, he makes the opponent's human killer worse and gives himself more, giving him an advantage. Also affects agility for himself and allows him to deal some more damage to opponents. Quite a good ability. This, and in combination with this, are his only real 2 support skills that he needs to cast, and both of them feel quite useful in a wide variety of situations, so I think this is going to be quite nice. Wotv calc numbers would be really cool to see here, but I feel like it's just going to be generally really valuable with the way you're looking at the meta. And this in combination with just elemental resistance, in combination with all the different types of resistance that this character seems to have, I think he'll be quite difficult to kill, just off of the data alone, but numbers will help decide that even more. Next up, we have this one, which, forgive me, is an AoE attack that at this point in time, I have just plumb forgot what this one does. So, excuse me, just a sec, I need to check my notes. Didn't save it either, so I'm just going to have to do a quick one. Easy to hit targets within range. Large. It was simpler than I thought, but just wanted to check to make sure I got the right thing. Basically, high accuracy on this ability. And our last one, select 2 targets, is a barrier destroyer. Deal large damage to the targets 2 times. So yeah, if you look at Kadaj, his kit in general, there's a lot of stuff that is focused on keeping him alive. His limit burst is one of the most powerful limit bursts that the game has ever seen, and I still think is quite strong even to date. Even without the accuracy increase on it, Kadaj feels generally pretty accurate in the water element, so I don't think it will be too much of a problem. He has a lot of single target attacks with a few AoEs and a few support skills that it feels like he will be able to get off almost every time before getting into a battle, is generally decent range and higher accuracy on a bunch of abilities, and he focuses primarily on single target, which means that he can work very well with Ash and Mont, or even with June, or dare I say, the other guy that's coming out the following week. If we were at the start of what will soon be the katana meta, this is a good first step, and we'll see the next one, possibly a giant leap, following week. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you later.